communities in the red zone from over the river, which we call from Orange Hill up to Fancy. Today we did an exercise in terms of our preparation and tests in terms of evacuation of any volcanic eruption.
This assimilation exercise is very important in seeing the readiness. You know, I like how it was done. You were called out, not prepared. So what you actually had here today it was really spontaneous reaction rather than something that was planned or choreographed.
What we are doing is to help sensitize our community on the role that we have to play in terms of any disaster.
I'm from the community of Point. My community is relatively small. We are about 200 persons if we have to evacuate. However, our group has already prepared our evacuation plan. We have a response team. Everybody knows what their role is. If we have to evacuate, I think we will be okay.
The bits and pieces that I didn't know about, I think I gain it. So yeah, I'm ready. My family, we are prepared as well. So yeah, we're good to go.
At any point in time, the loss of ray, Volcano could move into an explosive eruption. Orange Hill will be ready.
Our communities in the red zone from over the river, which we call from Orange Hill up to Fancy. Today we did an exercise in terms of our preparation and tests in terms of evacuation of any volcanic eruption.
This assimilation exercise is very important in seeing the readiness. You know, I like how it was done. You were called out, not prepared. So what you actually had here today it was really spontaneous reaction rather than something that was planned or choreographed.
What we are doing is to help sensitize our community on the role that we have to play in terms of any disaster.
I'm from the community of Point. My community is relatively small. We are about 200 persons if we have to evacuate. However, our group has already prepared our evacuation plan. We have a response team. Everybody knows what their role is. If we have to evacuate, I think we will be okay.
The bits and pieces that I didn't know about, I think I gain it. So yeah, I'm ready. My family, we are prepared as well. So yeah, we're good to go.
At any point in time, the loss of ray, Volcano could move into an explosive eruption. Orange Hill will be ready.
Our communities in the red zone from over the river, which we call from Orange Hill up to Fancy. Today we did an exercise in terms of our preparation and tests in terms of evacuation of any volcanic eruption.
This assimilation exercise is very important in seeing the readiness. You know, I like how it was done. You were called out, not prepared. So what you actually had here today it was really spontaneous reaction rather than something that was planned or choreographed.
What we are doing is to help sensitize our community on the role that we have to play in terms of any disaster.
I'm from the community of Point. My community is relatively small. We are about 200 persons if we have to evacuate. However, our group has already prepared our evacuation plan. We have a response team. Everybody knows what their role is. If we have to evacuate, I think we will be okay.
The bits and pieces that I didn't know about, I think I gain it. So yeah, I'm ready. My family, we are prepared as well. So yeah, we're good to go.
At any point in time, the loss of prey, Volcano could move into an explosive eruption. Orange will be ready.
Our community is in the red zone from over the river, which we call from Orange Hill up to Fancy. Today we did an exercise in terms of our preparation and tests in terms of evacuation of any volcanic eruption.
This assimilation exercise is very important in seeing the readiness. You know, I like how it was done. You were called out, not prepared. So what you actually had here today it was really spontaneous reaction rather than something that was planned or choreographed.
What we are doing is to help sensitize our community on the role that we have to play in terms of any disaster.
I'm from the community of Point. My community is relatively small. We are about 200 persons if we have to evacuate. However, our group has already prepared our evacuation plan. We have a response team. Everybody knows what their role is. If we have to evacuate, I think we will be okay.
The bits and pieces that I didn't know about, I think I gain it. So yeah, I'm ready. My family, we are prepared as well. So yeah, we're good to go.
At any point in time, the loss of prey, Volcano could move into an explosive eruption. Orange will be ready.
On Friday, April 9th, there'll be thousands of dollars to be won. A Lotto jackpot of $210,000. A new home, car, or that college education.
Lotto, you have to be in it to win it.
Next Lotto jackpot, $210,000.
More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way, Super 6 a bigger jackpot game.
The Super 6 jackpot for Friday, April 9th is $250,000. Super 6, more jackpot money.
More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way, Super 6 a bigger jackpot game.
Coming up on the VC3 News Update, St. Vincent and the Grenadines receive 24,000 doses of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines under the World Health Organization's COVAX facility. Unused COVID-19 vaccines to be gifted to countries in need, and the government could be unable to pay civil servants' salaries in the coming months. We'll have these stories and more coming up at 7 p.m. on the VC3 News Update.
Good evening. Welcome to this week's edition of Roundtable Talk. Of course, as promised, our very special guest on this evening's edition of Roundtable Talk is none other than Prime Minister Dr. Ralph E. Gonsalves. We have so much things to talk about. We are in the midst of an erupting volcano. There's COVID-19. There's also the question of vaccines coming to help to combat COVID-19. And there's dengue still around. You are managing multi-hazards, as it were, at the same time. Plus, you have your own domestic problems handling at the moment. You've just returned from the United States where your wife had an operation. Is this the most testing period of your leadership as head of government to date?
I guess we have to wait until the dust is settled to make that assessment, because there have been some testing periods along the way. But it's a very challenging time. But as the old lady said to me, God raise you up for a time like this. So we have to work together, all of us, the leadership, the government in all the leadership spheres across all endeavors, and the people of St. Vincent and Grenadines, and we work with our regional partners and our international partners in order to keep things together and to thrive, to advance and progress while we are dealing with the day-to-day challenges of life and living. But it is a difficult time, and across the nation, the faces of men and women are strained and anxious. And this is why it is a time for serious thought and action based on science and facts and the real world, and not on superstition, and not on fake news, not on falsehoods, not on vanity issues, including the vanity of small differences. Because sometimes if there are even small differences between persons, they make them larger than they are, and there's a vanity. And of course, the factual situation is that we are in a pandemic. Several months ago, we declared a public health emergency, not a state of emergency under the Constitution, but a public health emergency under the Public Health Act, which has certain legal and practical implications.
Talk to us a bit about that.
Yes, legal and practical implications. And we see that there are new variants of the COVID-19. Fortunately, the solidarity of science has brought about a vaccine, or a number of different vaccines. and the way in which we can have that vaccine delivered to the people as an important tool in the fight against COVID and for the return to normalcy. And amidst all of those matters, we are having an oozing, an effusive volcanic eruption with uncertainty as to whether there's going to be a cataclysmic or explosive eruption, which in the time of COVID, where there is community spread, that prospect is one which is daunting, and and all those reasons why we must treat the current situation very seriously. I don't describe the situation as one of crisis, because it's a challenge, serious, multifaceted challenge. A crisis I define as a condition in which the principals are innocent of the extent of the condition and have no credible bundle of ideas as to how to get out of that condition. So the principals must be innocent of the extent of the condition. As I have outlined to you, some of the factual and legal matrices, we are not innocent of the extent of the condition. And we have a bundle of credible ideas which are in the process of being implemented and for some time now to come out of this multifaceted challenge. And our people need to listen to serious leaders at all levels, and they must avoid fake news and people who just want to create mischief and confusion, either for their own, they have it for their own purposes, maybe ego, maybe political, it may be something else. You don't even, I can't get into the psychology of everybody, but they have some reason, or they think they have a reason, and but the people must ignore all of that and listen to serious people who are addressing the serious condition of our nation and how to go forward. We are in part currently the quote-unquote victim of our own relative successes over the past year, because from the time of the pandemic of March the 11th, when it was declared by the World Health Organization, to the Christmas, we had very few cases. We had a number of imported cases, but very few local cases. But from Christmas, with some people who came in, and we had a Christmas time, people went to visit one another.
We had a nice
parties and so on, and we see in January what emerged, and the community spread is there, though we have controlled it, and it's over the last week the positivity rate is just over 1%. And that is pretty manageable. But there are real dangers given the way in which we are also interconnected for all the variants. If it's available if it arises in St. Lucia, it's just a matter of time that it would come to St. Vincent. Or if it is suspected in Barbados, it's only a matter of time that it reaches us. And it doesn't have to come through an official gateway. of Argyle International Airport, people in the northeast and the northwest.
They interact.
They interact with people from St. Lucia on an ongoing basis. And also with Barbados, but much less so. And in the southern area with Grenada. So the world is one interconnected space. And that's why we have to do work nationally, regionally, and globally in concert with one another to address these challenges. And then, if Sophie were to blow, as we normally speak, you can imagine thousands of people moving from the red zone in the northeast and the red zone in the northwest, going into shelters, going into camps.
Going into people's homes.
In large numbers. There is a likelihood that you will have an enhanced community spread of a kind which could bring about extraordinary pain and suffering and illness, serious illness and loss of life. So not just from the sulfur itself, the volcano itself, but from COVID, from this virus. And that's why it is so important that we all be vaccinated. It's as simple as that.
It seems as though we can't talk about COVID now without talking about La Soufrière volcano.
Both are interconnected, and we can't talk about those things unless we talk about returning to normalcy. Look, Teresa, 2 days ago, Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister, made a speech. And he's laying out a roadmap, or an amended roadmap, because they have had different roadmaps. And in the circumstances, roadmaps are amended because the circumstances change. You can have a roadmap for a condition which is different than the one now. You have to amend it. And he offered the prospect that because of the uptake in the vaccination in Britain, 20-something million people out of 65 million have already been vaccinated, a number close to, I think, 30 million. And he's saying, look, by June, we should be freeing up the borders in a way in which you can travel again and enjoy yourself. And he says, I'm going to put in place a traffic light system for travel. Red, amber, and green. Well, I understand red. Red means don't go to those places. Green means go to those places. I'm not so sure the details about amber, because the details have not been elaborated. But one thing is clear. A critical element in the travel of the British people over the summer coming up from June is what is the extent of the vaccination in the country to which you are traveling. Glen Beach, the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Finance, Tourism Authority, all negotiated the agreement to have Virgin Atlantic, Virgin to come here in June. No.
There's some implications there.
You plan.
Yeah.
But if we are not vaccinated at a level, would the British authorities permit Virgin to come? Or if they had to come, would we have to impose certain kinds of restrictions? People are not going to come. Because if you come in and you have to be quarantined here for whatever number of days, but you can go to Antigua, or you can go to Barbados or Grenada or St. Lucia, where you have far more vaccinations.
Prime Minister, we'll talk more about vaccinations when we come back from this first break.
I am Hans John, 2019 Vinci Ragasokamuna. I took the COVID-19 vaccine and so should you. Let's be an example to others. Get vaccinated today and help control the spread of COVID-19.
Vaccinate if you want to eliminate the spread of the virus in our place, and do not procrastinate, but rather let us vaccinate. Get vaccinated today. More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way. Super 6 a bigger jackpot game.
The Super 6 jackpot for Friday, April 9th is $250,000. Super 6, more jackpot money.
More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way. Super 6 a bigger jackpot game.
On Friday, April 9th, there'll be thousands of dollars to be won. A Lotto jackpot of $210,000. A new home, car, or that college education.
Lotto, you have to be in it to win it.
Next Lotto jackpot, $210,000.
Welcome back, and we're going to talk vaccinations, but just to remind our viewers that you can make your contribution, you can send your questions, comments, concerns, and the Prime Minister will be pleased to respond. Vaccinations, we received another 24,000 doses today, and of course we had some prior. But two of the things that you noted when you were actually involved in the press briefing this morning, the fact that we have two issues. On one hand, we are dealing with the issue of vaccine equity, and locally with the low uptake in vaccines. How do we reconcile these two? And what do you say to people who say, why am I taking the vaccine? It's not going to prevent me from getting COVID anyway.
Well, there are the two sets of challenges. We have to address them. The question of vaccine equity, globally, we have to have fair and equal access to vaccines at reasonable, at affordable prices, so that we don't have a vaccine nationalism and a situation that only rich lives matter, that only rich countries have an abundance of the vaccines and poorer countries don't have it. And we know that there's many countries which are storing vaccines and they're not using them. And then in the case where we fight and we battle and we get vaccines, as we got 45,000, 5,000 from Dominica, then we got 40,000 from India. Mm-hmm. We gave away 10, 5 to St. Lucia and 5 to Grenada, so that left us with 35,000, and we got about 800 of the Sputnik. Now, we have done so far 11,700 or thereabouts vaccines, up to the 3rd, I think, to the 4th of April. Mm-hmm. Today's the 7th. We have enough vaccines for the second dose of those who have gotten the first dose. And we have vaccines to further expand the delivery of vaccines to people. But there is a slow uptake, and there is of the vaccine by significant sections of the population. And we have a cutoff point in relation to these vaccines. For those which we got before, the AstraZeneca from India, the cutoff point is the 27th of June. That's the time when they expire. You can't use them after that. And those which we got today is the 30th of June, more or less the same deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we don't take the vaccines, which we have available, and people don't go and be vaccinated, as we get closer to that point for the expiration, I'll have to give the vaccines to other countries nearby who want them, because it would be a sad thing to have a scarce commodity and have them spoil. You can't use them. And I'm making arrangements. I have to make arrangements optimistically that more people will have an uptake locally to get vaccines. So we have the African Medical Services platform where we could get about 21,000 from. I still have the links with the Russians. And then, of course, in September, spoken to the Cubans, the sovereign from Cuba may become available. But every day we wait to take the vaccine is a day longer to come back to normalcy. It's a day when we put greater pressure on our children. We put greater pressure on the poor and the working people. Look, civil servants and teachers, and police and doctors and nurses. So far, every single month they have been getting their salaries, despite all the challenges. Other countries have missed payments. We are now under real pressure every month because of the slowdown in economic activity. Of course, our slowdown has not been as anywhere as great as the countries neighboring us. And they're having the problem like us, but even worse. But because we have been so protecting our people in so many different ways, people take it for granted. So I have to say to them, listen, this is the real world, you know. I don't have a magic wand. Ralph is not a magician to get everything done and have everything in a normal way. I need your help. We need each other's help. And that is why you have to take the vaccine. When they talk that the vaccine doesn't protect you from being infected, what the vaccine does, it reduces considerably the prospect of you getting infected or you infected somebody. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the vaccine reduces markedly, significantly, you getting sick, getting seriously ill, and reduces significantly the prospects of you dying from COVID. These are more than powerful reasons to take the vaccine. And some of the things people talk about, that it's going to change your DNA, I mean, it's just rubbish, that it's going to mend them, it's going to cut down their virility. They can't produce as many sperms, you know, and therefore they will only fire blanks. You hear all that kind of rubbish. I mean, none of that is supported by any science. None of that. And anytime you have a vaccine, there will be minor cases, depending on the person who takes the vaccine, that you may have an adverse repercussion. But nobody has died in the Caribbean yet
from taking the vaccine.
From taking the vaccine. And in Britain, they have distributed over 20 million AstraZeneca. And they talk about 40 or so cases of blood clot, and they haven't made the connection, the link, a causal link between whether it's the vaccine give you or you get it independently. But the real world is this. I had to tell a young man today. I said, listen to me. You can get it and take it home to your mother or your grandmother. And even though you might survive and don't get very sick, if you get COVID and you don't take the vaccine, do you know what can happen to you? The long-term damage done to you? Your lungs, what is called the long COVID, your lungs can become scarred. So that you've recovered, but you're tired. You have problems, your breathing is labored. I know construction workers recovered, and he can't walk as he was walking before. You get a case of flu, ordinary flu. It's going to humbug you. It gives you problems with your heart. Tightens the muscles around your heart. Creates cardiac problems for you. In women, the research has shown that though you survive, it increases the problems you have with your fibrosis in your mammaries. The doctors have advised me on this, and I've read it in reputable publications. And if you're in a pre-diabetic condition, it can send you straight to full-blown diabetes. And if you think diabetes is a joke, ask people who suffer from diabetes. And to get it as a young person, or in your 30s or 40s, is a hell of a thing. If you want to find out what is going to humbug you with your virility, get it. Get diabetes and get it seriously. You know? So all of these, there's a lot of fake news. Bill Gates doing it to control people. I take the vaccine, Bill Gates could control me. Bill Gates has my mind. I mean, why do we talk this kind of rubbish? And it is irresponsible for individuals to be parlaying this sort of things. There are some persons who believe this thing, you know.
Yes, they are.
But I tell you, there are a lot of things that people may believe which don't have a basis. In fact, there are some people today, you know, there is a flat earth society in the world. There are people who believe that the earth is flat, you know. You hear me? There are people who believe that the earth doesn't revolve on its axis around the sun, and that is the opposite. Huh? You hear me? You can go on the top of this building, Teresa, with the idea in your head that you have an ability to fly. And if you jump, you will fly. You wouldn't fall. That Newton's law of gravity is rubbish. You're going to fly. Well, if you jump, you will fall. But you will fall not because of the presence or absence of Newton's law of gravity, you know. Because before Newton devised the thesis of the law of gravity, when men jumped, men fell. This is why we have to be in the real world, understanding things, and don't get wrapped up with a lot of vanity in your head. I tell you this too. People, Grenada says, if you have problems, if survey blows, we can take some people. Hopefully nothing of this will happen. Mia Motley called, say, we'll take some people. Make arrangements. Chastany, St. Lucia. Yesterday, the Premier of the British Virgin Islands said, listen, you know, we don't have a lot of space, but, you know, we will do. My brother Ralph, you know, we will help. But you think you can go into those persons' countries? You come from the red belt, the red zone or the orange zone. Say you go in there without you have a vaccine?
I don't think so. We'll talk some more about that when we come back. Also, we want to talk about the fact that the people in the diaspora are asking whether or not the protocols will be revisited once people are fully vaccinated.
Yes.
And also the policy with regards to the teachers, public servants, and the minibus when we come back.
Sure.
More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way. Super 6 a bigger jackpot game.
The Super 6 jackpot for Friday, April 9th is $250,000. Super 6, more jackpot money.
More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way. Super 6 a bigger jackpot game. Hello and hi.
Hello everyone, I am Shakel Bob. I am a former Miss Pitani, a former Miss Rural SCG and Miss SCG contestant and runner-up. I'm a lawyer by profession but a pageant lover at heart. Do not let the negatives prey on your mind because a stitch in time saves 9. So, it's COVID vaccination time. Get vaccinated today to reduce the impact of COVID-19 in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
And I urge you, get vaccinated. It is safe and it is effective. Stop the spread, help the fight, and make the choice that is right. And let us unite and do the thing right.
On Friday, April 9th, there'll be thousands of dollars to be won. A Lotto jackpot of $210,000. A new home, car, or that college education.
Lotto, you have to be in it to win it.
Next Lotto jackpot, $210,000.
Welcome back, and you are viewing Roundtable Talk for today, Wednesday, April 7th, World Health Day. Our special guest, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Ralph E. Gonsalves. When we took the last break, we were talking about the fact that the diaspora wants to know whether the protocols for fully vaccinated persons will be reviewed, and also I know there was a bit, or there has been quite a bit of an uproar, if that's the right word, with respect to the policy of having those public servants and teachers who are not vaccinated to be tested on a regular basis, and also the new policy in respect of minivan drivers.
Okay. Now, we begin from the proposition that the vaccine is safe. It is the way, one of the main things to get us back to normalcy. And we have to make sure that persons who take the vaccine in their travels, somehow they have a quote-unquote a benefit of being fully vaccinated.
Okay.
And as time goes on, I'm quite sure that we are going to see a liberalization of the current protocols, where you come back, you do 7 days. If you have the if you're vaccinated. I came back. Yes. I did my 7 days. Eloise came back today. Eloise is doing her 7 days. She's in a hotel at the moment. Though I'm fully vaccinated, and she's fully vaccinated, I can't see her for another 7 days because she'll be breaking the protocol. Mm-hmm. She has to be in quarantine. So there it is. So I expect that. And it relates to also the level of vaccination which we have here. That would aid it, clearly, with a further liberalization. And when we take account of do we have any of the variants here? Or are the variants from the source markets, the variants of the COVID virus, are they well contained within the 4 walls of the particular vaccine which you take? So there are all of those considerations. But in the process, people are gathering data. And like, for instance, it was said before that you must have your second dose to be able to take advantage of the 7-day quarantine and not to do it for 14. You must have had it a month, 4 weeks after. I see CAFA is suggesting that you do it 2 weeks after. And I spoke to the chief medical officer if she had seen that recommendation. She said, yes, they have to address that. And so they know that changes will have to be made. But I'm answering you, I don't make those changes. I could interrogate the health authorities. I can question them about the changes. But they're the ones who have to be satisfied under the law in respect of all the epidemiological circumstances, all the health circumstances, assessing the risk. Because, look, this thing is to minimize risk, to mitigate risk, to manage the risks. Because, you know, as I told somebody, as I said jokingly this morning on the radio program on NBC, I say, if I leave the financial complex and I have to cross the road to go buy Diamond Girl, I'll look it up because it's a one-way traffic. But to also look down, I have to be careful because you might have some crazy man come and do me something, knock me down or something of the sort. But not because I have a risk in walking across the road. And everybody would have a risk. Doesn't mean that I don't walk across the road. How do you manage that? Because that life is managing risks. And there are particular risks attendant upon COVID. That we manage the risks and we scale down the restrictions or ramp them up as the circumstances admit. And everybody would realize that the way we have handled it, the government, and my approach personally, has been to be very realistic. That is why we didn't do like everybody else in a knee-jerk way, lock down the whole country. Remember some people, it's amazing, some who are telling me, lock it down tight like a drum. Use Chinese, draconian Chinese methods. Some of the same people are telling me, we're talking about vaccine. In other words, they shift their position entirely. I don't know the basis on which they shift their position. But the vaccine is safe. The benefits of the vaccine far outweigh any minimal risks there are associated with any vaccine. That has been the history of vaccines. And so it is with this one. Now, in relation to the public servants and teachers and police and nurses and the like, I just want to, I think I can do no better than read 2 paragraphs of the letter by Acting Prime Minister Montgomery Daniel on April the 1st, 2021, last week Thursday, to the General Secretary of the Public Service Union, which was sent also to the Teachers Union. The two relevant paragraphs are these. I take this opportunity to reiterate the official policy of the government on this issue. This issue meaning the vaccination and testing of public servants, public employees. Montgomery says, to this end, I wish to advise that while vaccination is strongly recommended, it is not mandatory for public sector workers. However, in order to safeguard the health and safety of all persons in the workplace, it is a requirement that workers who have not received at least one dose of an approved COVID-19 vaccine be tested on a regular basis for COVID-19 infection up to once every 2 weeks, based on the relative level of risks as determined by the health authorities. I'll come back to that sentence shortly. Next paragraph. The government takes all its responsibilities very seriously, including the management of COVID-19 pandemic, which is affecting virtually all aspects of the lives and livelihoods of persons throughout the world. The aim of all policies pertaining to the current pandemic is to minimize and mitigate risk to all citizens to the greatest extent possible. We are therefore wholly committed to implementing measures recommended by the health authorities in support of the critical objectives of preserving health, lives and livelihoods. I'm certain that this is also a priority for all stakeholders. I couldn't write it better. Those are two beautiful paragraphs of the acting Prime Minister outlining the policy of the government. So, having stated the policy, the vaccination is not mandatory, but it is strongly recommended. And if you don't take at least one dose of the vaccine, the workers, the public sector workers, would have to be tested on a regular basis for COVID-19 infection up to once every 2 weeks, based on the relative levels of risk as determined by the health authorities. Up to once. The letter didn't say at least once.
Mm-hmm.
So when he said up to once, it means it can't be more than once every 2 weeks. But because it is up to one, it could be less than one. So it could be 0. Based on the relative levels of risk as determined by the health authorities. So that what we are saying, we would love everybody, we have about, if you take established and non-established public sector workers, central government workers. The census in 2012 said there were 8,000 and something. That is dealing with all the police, the nurses, the doctors, the teachers, the civil servants, but it also deals with the non-established workers also. Sanitation workers and casual workers in agriculture, in public works, and so on and so forth. So you put that number. You're talking about in the region of about 8,000. If you're dealing with just what you call the pensionable workers, it may be a number closer to 6,000.
Okay.
Now, clearly, if you test every single one of them every 2 weeks, it's not so much the resources to buy the rapid antigen tests. It is the manpower resources by the nurses. So what will happen, based on the risks?
As determined by the health authorities.
Clearly, teachers are an important frontline group, and we will want to have most, if not all of them, and there are about 1,800 teachers tested. But it doesn't mean that every single one of them would be tested, even though everyone will be liable to be tested, because you're going to have random sampling, representative sampling. In an area where you have the threat of the volcano more immediate, you would want to test most or all of the teachers, the police, the nurses, and so on in that particular area, both northeast and northwest. Notice how come we wrote this, you know. Up to once every 2 weeks. Based on the relative levels of risk as determined by the health authorities. Now, what we'd like to do now, and the Ministry of Education has sent this out, and the Ministry of Health will be sending out their protocols too. Tomorrow the 8th and Friday the 9th. Thursday the 8th and the 9th, and Friday the 9th. We're asking the teachers across the whole of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the areas where you're from, go to your clinic, take the test. If everybody could take it, fine.
Test or the vaccine?
Or the vaccine.
Okay.
You take the test or you take the vaccine. Preferably you take the vaccine. If all of you go and you take the vaccine, that's fine. Because already, up to the 3rd, 331 teachers have taken the vaccine. 331. I don't think people realize as many as 17% of the teachers have taken the vaccine. Not enough, but bigger than the average. Over 450 nurses or health workers have taken the vaccine. And you have about 2,000 health workers. So you talk about 22.5% or thereabouts of the health workers, higher than the national average of 10-11% taking the vaccine. Now, so you go on Thursday and Friday. You take your vaccine, you take your test. When you go into the principal on the 12th, you say, well, listen, I'm vaccinated, I'm tested. No big thing. If you're not, you'll be asked, listen, you can't stay on the compound until you go and get vaccinated and go and get tested.
Okay, important.
No. And on the 12th, I'm informed that the Ministry of Health will have health personnel
available on site.
Available to go also to test. But clearly it is easier for you, Teresa. Let me take my constituency, South Rivers. You have 2 teachers, I think, if I remember correctly, who live in Georgetown from South Rivers. I mean, who teach in South Rivers. Well, they can go and take their tests or take their vaccine in Georgetown. I have people from Park Hill who teach in South Rivers. They can go to the Park Hill Clinic tomorrow or Friday. They don't have to go to South Rivers to do it. And so on and so forth. So you make it easier for people. It's no big thing. What is the rapid antigen test? You put the swab in your nostril, and in 20 minutes you get the result. If the result comes out negative, fine, because it's 90 little bit % accurate. If it's positive, they will then go and take a you'll take a PCR test. Your PCR test, if it comes back negative, you're isolated. You know, you do your quarantine and everything. It comes back positive, it comes back negative, sorry, you're there teaching. It's as simple as ABC. It's a matter of solidarity. Look, I hear it said that you don't have teachers and public servants who have what we have done. We have done so well that you don't have people who have been who have had COVID. Look, just over a week ago, in a secondary school on the leeward side of the island, you had 2 teachers. When they went for the pre-opening meetings, and 2 of them had COVID. They tested. No. I want to ask this question. Not only there, let me tell you places which have had COVID, which we have had to close for days. Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Registry, AG's Chambers, Director of Public Prosecutions Chambers, down at the Accountant General's office. There are several places, social development.
Okay.
And so there, in addition, so we have the history and what is prospective about all the variants and so on and so forth. And we have the vaccine, and we have to return to normalcy, and we have suffering.
And we want to talk about suffering when we come back from our final break.
Band leader of Lynx Mass Band, Band of the Year winner 2019. I'm urging you to practice proper hand washing to curb the spread of COVID-19. When you're able to wash your hands, use soap and water to clean your hands thoroughly. Get vaccinated today. Protect yourself and be responsible.
Listen to me and I urge you, get vaccinated. It is safe and it is effective. Stop the spread, help the fight, and make the choice that is right. And let us unite and do the thing right. Man and woman, let us join in the fight.
Welcome back, Prime Minister. So many things to talk about, and we're into a final 15 minutes. We needed to the update
on the minibus.
With the minibus, and then we'll talk about Sufre after that.
On April the 1st, Thursday, April the 1st, statutory rule and order number 11 is cited as the Public Health COVID-19 Amendment number 3 Rules 2021. And what it does, it makes certain critical amendments to the pre-existing rules. And these amendments, the minibus driver and conductor must take the vaccine, or if they don't take the vaccine, they have to take a test, the COVID test, the antigen test, at the expense of the government. They don't have to pay for it. Once every 2 weeks. There are about 600 minivans, not quite 600. So you're talking about 1,200 people. And they must have the minibus, they must have the test on them, or the COVID vaccine. Yeah. Yes. Okay. If not, it's a ticketable offense of $100. In the same statutory rule and order, we go along with the minibus operators, and we say, listen, you're asking for more passengers, and we say fine. So if it's a 7-seater, you could carry up to 5 passengers. If it's a 14-seater, 9 passengers. If it's a 18-seater, 12 passengers. If it's a 22-seater, 15 passengers. 25 or 26-seater, 17 passengers. 28 or 29-seater, 19 passengers. These are more or less the minimum which the minibus men had asked for, the minibus operators. So we are saying, listen, man, while one is not conditional on the other, look, take your vaccine, no man, it's available. Now take a test now, and just be orderly and have it on you. Why the police, because this came out on Thursday, I believe the police giving them a couple of days before they're enforcing it in a full way now. I think they're probably telling them all now about it, and I take the opportunity here.
All right, there's a question that I want you to respond to. Someone is asking, is there a plan B in the event that we are unable to achieve herd immunity? I know you like the word community immunity through vaccinations.
Immunity, yes.
Will it be a case of lifting restrictions and allowing people to manage their own risk?
No, we can't do that. We can't do that. There'll be mayhem. I understand the frustration of that person who is asking, because that person may well be saying, why in heaven's sake they don't take the vaccine? Eh? It's available. There are some countries don't have it. Take it now. And but if you do it, what that person is really saying, in short, or maybe if you take it logically, they say, man, listen, Ralph, if they don't want to take it, lay all hell break loose now, and who live, and who dead. No, but you can't go like that. You see what I mean, Teresa? You have to manage the thing properly. I'm just looking at the logic now, as if you think it down properly. But you had said to me something in the intermission, which I will speak to without you asking it, because I know you have it on your mind. Because people are asking about it. Because Sofre is uncertain. Why open the schools on the 12th of April? Why open them on Monday? Clearly, if Sofre blow, you can't open the schools then. Because in the red zones, even the orange zones, you wouldn't have schools. And then you have to use other schools to put camps. Schools among other places. So that's just the case. And the teachers themselves have to be shelter managers, or supporting the process.
Management, yeah.
And I thank them for that kind of work in which they're involved, and they have to be praised for it, lifted up. But if you can't, on the basis of an uncertainty, deny children the right to go back to face-to-face education. And I just want to say, at the same time, for those below grade 5 who ain't get their devices yet, Camilo told me that they should be here in less than 2 weeks. So everybody will have. We have everybody in secondary school, all the grade 6, and all the grade 5s outside of Kingston, because they had worked with the grade 5s coming from the country areas coming down, and the poor areas now, in certain areas. And but so grade 5s, the grade 5s in town would get, and the grade 4s right down, they will also get within 2 weeks' time. Keep my finger crossed, God willing, transportation and all that. Children are suffering, especially the children of the poor. you know, it's not an easy thing. The poor and the working people suffering. And, you know, this country bookie, I in this business for the poor and the working people, you know. I acknowledge that I'm a country bookie, you know. You can't humiliate me by calling me a country bookie or calling the people. Because 80% of the people in this country either come from the country or if they live in town. They either live in the country or if they live in town, they got family. Either they themselves or they have family from the country. And this country bookie ain't do too bad, First degree, second degree, PhD, lecturer, university professor, lawyer, additionally, Prime Minister for 20 years, for that representative for North Central Windward now since 1994. Not bad for a country bookie,
I tell you.
Not bad at all. And this is the kind of rot that you have. Some ignorant people they getting on with. But thank God, you see, at my age now, where I've lived far more years than I have remaining to live, I will take on all of them. You hear me? I ain't worried about one thing.
You have a country to run.
I have a country to run. And I throw words for them because they must stop this foolishness and they must behave properly like professionals.
You hit the ground running next week to join the vaccination campaign trail, so to speak.
I want to go in the northeast and northwest. I don't know which are the days, but I want to talk tomorrow at cabinet. We might have 2 days of cabinet, at least a day and a half. There are many things. First thing on the agenda tomorrow is dealing with the projects which have started or those which are ready to be started, because we have to, in addition to the JABS, JABS, we have to deal with the JOBS. But I want to put a proposal tomorrow. We have to go out more and more with sound system, with a public address system. I don't have to go and talk necessarily strain my voice and all that, because I could do other things, but to meet people and talk to people and give the support and show that it is very safe to have the vaccine. Now, I know I have personal friends who are well-meaning, who don't believe in the vaccine. But they're wrong. And I tell them that they're wrong. But in addition to those persons, there's some who are just malicious. I hear a fella put up a post. I don't pay attention to them. People will bring to me and say, well, he ain't taking it because he's protesting. He's not taking it as a form of protest against Ralph and the ULP. And the person who is saying that, he's overweight like me, maybe even more overweight than me. And I hope he don't have pre-existing conditions, and I pray to God that he don't get it. Because it could possibly be terrible. They must stop all of this, and I have to talk about these things. And Gaylan Wilkinson Campbell, her husband died in Barbados. He was working there. Good man. And he had COVID. I don't know whether he died from COVID or died with COVID. Gaylan is there. She has to bring him back home. It was a terrible time. At this very moment of their terrible, their bereavement, I'm informed that people cussing them and cussing her on Facebook and saying that and try that if Peter didn't take the vaccine, he wouldn't be dead. When Peter did not take the vaccine. You know, and this is, I just want people to know the kind of malignancy which is out there. It's nasty.
And unnecessary.
And unnecessary. And for what purpose? You know, it's like beasts have been let go. But I say that only to draw the attention of ordinary men and women of decency and good understanding. And I want the teachers, and I want the public servants, and I want the nurses, the health workers, I want the police. I want you to be in the vanguard of this. You have made important contributions. Don't let some crazy people mash up this thing for you and your children. Don't allow it to happen. The economic situation is difficult, it's challenging. You think it's easy? You think it has been easy over the last year plus every month to be paying $30 million in salaries and wages and pensions for former public servants and for the NIS contributions for present public servants? In January, we collected $15 million less than January 2020. Thankfully, in February, we made it up. And there's some specific reasons why it was made up. I'm supposed to get tomorrow the outturn for March. We held it together, it seems, but I want to see the actual numbers. But I'm not saying that it will, as we country bookie will say, it ain't happen. I ain't saying it happening punctual, that you ain't go get your money at the end of the month, or in any particular month. But I'm saying that the thing is so challenging that for the first time, a real prospect arises that can be so. And that's why we have to manage it carefully in every way. And the vaccine helps in that regard for us to get back to normalcy. I know what it is, you know.
As we talk about financing, I have heard a lot of talk about COVID monies, IMF giving this and IMF giving that.
You know, Camilo did a presentation. There was a question last time in Parliament, because you hear the all kind of foolishness. And Camilo gave an answer about every penny which we borrowed and what the small numbers which we got in grants.
And a lot of what was spent is also in the budget.
It's in the budget, yeah. But he brought things up to date, because there was a question was asked.
Okay.
Because the crazy wing of the NDP was leading them and saying, well, what happened to that? Ask them about that. I must say, though, that on this vaccine thing, Sinclair Leacock has acted very honorably and with good leadership. He's not only saying that I took the vaccine. He's not only saying further that I urge you to take it. He's actively going to urge people to take it.
I guess that's the only bipartisan approach we've had so far. In terms
I single out Sinclair Leacock.
Okay. All right.
I single, because I can only speak
of what you know.
I can only speak the truth as I see it.
All right.
I'm not saying that other people didn't say that. I take it, so you must take it. I think it's a good thing for you to take it and leave it there, and then start to see if you could undermine from underneath with all kind of other thing, you know. For what purpose? So this is why I single out Sinclair.
Okay.
And Sinclair has gotten the full length of the tongue from the crazy wing of the NDP. When you reach a stage where the metaphoric tail is wagging the metaphoric dog, it's a hell of a condition. And that's why I say this time, especially, people must listen to sensible leaders who are dealing with reality, who are dealing with science, who are not dealing with superstition. There's one person who was advising the unions, said to me that I said that I'm not dealing with superstition, but I said I will take the vaccine after prayerful consideration. I tell him, for me, prayer is not superstition. Prayer is real.
Well, I think that's a good note on which to end this evening's edition of Roundtable Talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Being here again as usual. And all the best, and continue to fight the good fight.
Thank you very much, Teresa. I appreciate it.
And see you again next week, Wednesday, same time, same place. Goodbye.
Our community is in the red zone from over the river, which we call from Orange Hill up to Fancy. Today we did an exercise in terms of our preparation and tests in terms of evacuation of any volcanic eruption.
This assimilation exercise is very important in seeing the readiness. You know, I like how it was done. You were called out, not prepared. So what you actually had here today it was really spontaneous reaction rather than something that was planned or choreographed.
What we are doing is to help sensitize our community on the role that we have to play in terms of any disaster.
I'm from the community of Point. My community is relatively small. We are about 200 persons if we have to evacuate. However, our group has already prepared our evacuation plan. We have a response team. Everybody knows what their role is. If we have to evacuate, I think we will be okay.
The bits and pieces that I didn't know about, I think I gain it. So yeah, I'm ready. My family, we are prepared as well. So yeah, we're good to go.
At any point in time, the loss of prey Volcano could move into an explosive eruption, Orange will be ready.
Coming up on the VC3 News Update, St. Vincent and the Grenadines receive 24,000 doses of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines under the World Health Organization's COVAX facility. Unused COVID-19 vaccines to be gifted to countries in need, and the government could be unable to pay civil servants' salaries in the coming months. We'll have these stories and more coming up at 7 p.m. on the VC3 News Update.
Hello and hi.
Hello everyone, I am Shakel Bob. I am a former Miss Pitani, a former Miss Rural SCG and Miss LCD contestant and runner-up. I'm a lawyer by profession but a pageant lover at heart. Do not let the negatives prey on your mind, because a stitch in time saves 9. So, it's COVID vaccination time. Get vaccinated today to reduce the impact of COVID-19 in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
And I urge you, get vaccinated. It is safe and it is effective. Stop the spread, help the fight, and make the choice that is right. And let us unite and do the thing right.
More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way. Super 6 a bigger jackpot game.
The Super 6 jackpot for Friday, April 9th is $250,000. Super 6, more jackpot money.
More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way. Super 6 a bigger jackpot game.
Our community is in the red zone from over the river, which we call from Orange Hill up to Fancy. Today we did an exercise in terms of our preparation and tests in terms of evacuation of any volcanic eruption.
This assimilation exercise is very important in seeing the readiness. You know, I like how it was done. You were called out, not prepared. So what you actually had here today is it was really spontaneous reaction rather than something that was planned or choreographed.
What we are doing is to help sensitize our community on the role that we have to play in terms of any disaster.
I'm from the community of Point. My community is relatively small. We are about 200 persons if we have to evacuate. However, our group has already prepared our evacuation plan. We have a response team. Everybody knows what their role is. If we have to evacuate, I think we will be okay.
The bits and pieces that I didn't know about, I think I gain it. So yeah, I'm ready. My family, we are prepared as well. So yeah, we're good to go.
At any point in time, the last of rain, Volcano could move into an explosive eruption, Orange will be ready.
On Friday, April 9th, there'll be thousands of dollars to be won. A Lotto jackpot of $210,000. A new home, car, or that college education.
Lotto, you have to be in it to win it.
Next Lotto jackpot, $210,000.
Vaccinate.
I'm Pete, band leader of Lynx Mass Band, Band of the Year winner 2019. I'm urging you to practice proper hand washing to curb the spread of COVID-19. When you're able to wash your hands, use soap and water to clean your hands thoroughly. Get vaccinated today. Protect yourself and be responsible.
Listen to me and I urge you, get vaccinated. It is safe and it is effective. Stop the spread, help the fight, and make the choice that is right.